Welcome back to Chin Music, our baseball show at TalkNorth.com. Best way to listen to this show or any of our many great shows at the network. Please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studio, and we're presented to you by OnX Maps. LaVelle Neal III, Star Tribune columnist and baseball guru. Royce Smalley, former Twins star, former Twins broadcaster, are on the show today. As usual, I'm Jim Souhan from TalkNorth.com and the Star Tribune. Let's start with the obvious. Royce Lewis is tearing it up at AAA. He has been playing third base. When do they move him to first base, and when do they call him up? Let's start with LaVelle on this one.
I think it's coming sooner than later. I wouldn't be surprised if Royce is up here. Well, it'll be interesting to see what happens at the end of his current homestand. I think more likely it would be June 12th when they return from a road trip and prepare to play the Cardinals in a 3-game series. And the St. Louis Cardinals are playing pretty good, but Royce is definitely tearing it up at AAA. The major development in the last couple of days is that he has begun to take grounders at second base and at first base. That has just happened this week. And yesterday he actually started at second base and hit a grand slam, his latest home run. So it looks like they are preparing Royce to play on the right side of the infield when he returns. That means they're happy with Brooks Lee at third and whatever timeshare they got going on at shortstop until they decide to call Culpepper up. So I'm very curious to see how all this works out because Luke Keaschall just hit like 350 in the month of May. And I know it wasn't with a lot of power, but he's showing some improved bat to ball skills. And he's usually the fixture at second. So does that mean Brooks is going to be a first baseman? You think about all the factors that's entailed with that, because Victor Caratini could play a little bit of first base, but now with Ryan Sheffer's out, recovering from his wrist surgery, he's needed more behind the plate. So maybe that creates an opportunity for Royce to play at first. But it looks like we're going to see Royce in a different position once the Twins decide to call him up, which I don't think can be much longer than another week or so.
Yeah, I would not give up on Luke Keaschall as your second baseman just yet. I've liked his bat to ball skills since he came up last year. His hitting mechanics are very, very solid. I don't think it's unusual at all for a guy to come up, play less than half a season, his first go round in the big leagues, come back and have pitchers that haven't figured him out just a little bit, how to pitch him, how to do different things, and struggle for a bit as the everyday guy when he had never been that. Last year was just, hey, I'm just excited to be here, right? This year is, oh my gosh, I got to stay here. Those are two different mindsets for a young player, and I think his hitting mechanics are just too solid to say, well, he's not going to be the hitter that he looked like he was going to be last year. I still think he is. And my preference would be for Royce Lewis to play first base and let Keaschall develop at second. Not to say that Royce can't play second. It's been interesting to think about the guys at second base that have played there and been run producers. Started with Joe Gordon way back when. I know this is you have to be a baseball history buff and a history of players buff like I am to know that name. But Joe Gordon, Tony Lazzeri, guys that could really thump it and play second base, and then in more modern times, Jeff Kent, a wonderful player. Was not known as a Roberto Alomar kind of defensive player, but when you hit 40 home runs, so a little bit of defense at second base is overlooked, and Royce could be that guy. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's not a done deal that he'll be a first baseman the rest of his life, but I think they got to let Luke Keaschall play it out and just get Royce's bat in the lineup somewhere.
By the way, Rogers Hornsby one of the greatest hitting second
Yeah,
basemen
where do you go? Let's go back.
time.
Let's go back to the original great offensive second baseman. You bet.
Good points from Roy. I want to see Royce Lewis at first base. Just let him talk to people when they come to first base and wear them out. They'll be exhausted by the time they get back to the dugout. They will have no chance of thinking about the game, and then let him go hit a home run and not think about fielding too much. Keaschall, where does it? So I don't know if they're going to bring up Royce and play him at second base, but if they did, is Keaschall a third baseman, first baseman, outfielder, DH? What is he?
Ooh, they tried Keaschall in the outfield during spring training. It wasn't pretty. Just getting reading the ball off the bat, and because it's different when you're an infielder versus being an outfielder when you're trying to read batted balls. And it looked like Luke struggled with that. He got turned around a few times in left field trying to track balls. I don't know if that's a good move for him, but and the other thing about Royce too is that the Twins tried to move Royce to second during the middle of the season a year or two ago, or maybe last year, and it caught him off guard, and he wasn't prepared. And in his mind, because I talked to him about it, in his mind, his thing was give him some advance warning so he could spend the offseason preparing so he could be ready. Because, when you move a player to a new position, he doesn't want to stink at it, So I can get that point from Royce. But, they threw him in center field when he tore up his ACL because he was still learning what a warning track was. And then they tried to play him at second out of the blue. So hopefully the work he's getting in the AAA with the Saints is kind of helping in transition for him. Because I still remember how, he had a hard time kind of adjusting at second base the one day they threw him out there. So, so I think about that in terms of putting Luke in the outfield. No, that's no go. So I think we all are in agreement that Royce being at first base would probably be the best move if you're going to move him off third base.
I guess I don't know why there's never ever in an outfield spot in the conversation for him. As you guys know, I'm a broken record about that. I mean, for the last 3 years, but I don't know why it's not. I think the ACL and center field injury was a fluke. I think that he could play. I think left field would be easy. I think right field he could learn how to play right field in at target field, which is a little tougher than left. But big arm, runs well, strong guy. Go out there and just think about hitting out in the outfield. But evidently it's just he's going to be an infielder. So.
Yeah, that is interesting, right? You got Walker Jacobson, Emmanuel Rodriguez in AAA. They're probably envisioning them as of outfielders of the future. They already got Gabe Gonzalez taking grounders at first base, pretty much because the body type suggests he should be at first base. And then you got other guys like Kyler Fecko and Henry Mendez, too, who are outfielders. So maybe they're thinking the outfield inventory is kind of full, but it was a few years ago. They thought they had an infielder inventory when they had Spencer Steele and Encarnacion Strand and Jose Miranda and Edouard Julian. Those inventories could change in a heartbeat, and you got to be ready to pivot. And there's no better way to pivot than when you have someone who is drafted as a shortstop, because you can move those guys anywhere.
Right.
Speaking of which, good transition. I feel like we could talk about Royce all day, but we're going to talk about him every week, so we don't need to beat it into the ground this week. Culpepper, very interesting minor league career. Pretty much every stop, he's got about an 820, 830 OPS. He seems to adapt to the new level and perform pretty similarly across all levels. He's hitting home runs. He's stealing bases. Batting average isn't spectacular, but the OPS is very good for a shortstop. And the Twins seem to be just, playing the utility infielder of the week every week at shortstop. Roy, are you looking forward to seeing Culpepper, and what do you expect from him?
I am really looking forward to seeing him, and I think the whole thing for him is, can he really play the position? If he's a shortstop, if he is a bona fide big league shortstop, then I think, based on exactly what you said, he's kind of conquered every level from an offensive standpoint. And, I can see where, first year in AAA, the batting average might not be what it right now, what it might be at the end of the season. But the on base plus slugging intrigues me. If he continues to be over 800, yeah, even with the batting average lower than you would want, and he can pick it as short, then I say get him up here. I mean, it's you might want to let him have a full season in AAA. And I personally would. I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him feel like he had conquered AAA pitching before he comes up here. But I'll just go back. The key is, can he play short? Can he play big league shortstop the way they want to play it up here? And if he's a defensive solution at shortstop, then I'm pretty excited about his possibilities.
One thing that encourages me about him that's also a good indicator is that he's got a pretty decent walk rate. He's closed in on 100 walks and in 200 minor league games, since being drafted. And that's pretty solid, So even if you're batting 265, that means you got an on-base percentage at about 360. And that's not shabby when it comes with power. I'd like to see more of him. I've seen him play a couple times at St. Paul, and he looks capable at short. I'd like to see him in the majors and see what he could do in that level, because I've heard the Twins say these things. Oh yeah, we think player X can stick it short, and then they get to the majors and they end up having to move someplace else, i.e. Royce Lewis. So I like to see if he could definitely stick it short. There's no question that the guy behind him, Merrick Houston, their first round draft pick from a year ago, he's a pure shortstop for sure. And if he can hit like Culpepper, then the Twins have a great problem on their hands in the next coming years. But I'm thinking that I'm curious to see how much longer they're going to wait before they give Culpepper a shot. Right now they're getting decent. They're getting decent contributions from Tristan Gray and Kreidler at short. You got another Mr. Grand Slam in Gray, and Kreidler could put the piece at like 435-foot homers. So they haven't been derelict there. So I guess they got some time to play with before they have to make this move.
You're worrying me, LaVelle. You use word. Every time I hear, I think he's capable as shortstop, I go, here we go.
Yeah, well, see, I even said it.
Capable. Capable will not cut it.
The Twins are sending out those cues that we believe he's capable. So,
no.
Let's see it to believe it before we believe it for sure.
That's like saying someone has a nice personality.
He can make almost all the plays. Okay, outfield.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying about Brooks Lee, and then they move him to third base. Yes. All right, I have a couple other minor league questions. We will talk about Simeon Woods-Richardson. We will get to our Booze and Blues segment at the end of the show. We do want to thank Aquarius Home Services.
Scott for Aquarius. Home ownership is like a reality show. Your house loves drama. One day, the AC quits. The dripping faucet keeps you up all night. Or the light switch never turns off. But Aquarius Home Services is ready for every plot twist. Our trusted HVAC techs, plumbers, and electricians bring the calm back home with $98 off any repair. Schedule today at AquariusHomeservices.com. Aquarius, earning the right to be recommended.
Also want to tell you about Onyx Maps, onyxmaps.com/fish, onyxmaps.com/hunt. Today I'm going to tell you about the Fish app because it is a good time to fish. Stop fishing the same lake because it's the only one you know. Onyx Fish lets you filter lakes by species, abundance, trophy, and keeper potential so you can make a smarter call on where to spend your Saturday before you ever hitch up the trailer. It's only $34.99 for the year. $34.99 for the year. Less than a spool of good braid. Download Onyx Fish on the App Store or go to onyxmaps.com/fish and fish smarter this season. We also want to thank Minnesota Masonic Charities.
Today, I want to talk a little bit about the Minnesota Masonic Charities. When you think about the Masons, I get it. You think about the funny hats, those pancake breakfasts, which are phenomenal. But my dear friend John Schweitz and I have chatted about this, and it's so much more than that. They've got the Masonic home over in Bloomington. They've got the hospital for the children over at the U of M. They are the largest fraternal organization in terms of charitable needs in our country, and they deserve a ton of recognition. So thank you, Minnesota Masonic Charities, for all you do and for supporting us over here at Talk North. And a special thanks to my good friend, John Schweitz.
And guess what? This is a Twins show, and even though the populace in Minnesota always has something to complain about with the Twins, still great. It's a great ballpark. This team is still in the wild card race. You get to see Byron Buxton play. You get to see great young pitching, and you never know what's going to happen. I would head to Target Field. You can get in there at a very low price. You can buy season ticket packages. You can buy limited season ticket packages. You can watch the baseball. You can walk around the park. Go have a good time. Here's more information from the Minnesota Twins.
Here is where it all starts. Here's where pages are turned and new legends are written. Here's where kids become lifelong fans and lifelong fans become kids. Here's where sunsets last longer, happy hour tastes better, and summer hits its stride. And when all of Twins territory stands together and believes hard enough, well, there's no place like here. Get your tickets at twins.com.
All right, so Simeon Woods Richardson gets DFA'd and basically sold to the Toronto Blue Jays, and they got rid of him right before a couple more pitcher injuries where they could have used him at least to fill in the gap. LaVelle, did you hear anything behind the scenes about that move? Was it just performance? Was he unhappy with his role? Was just the fact he didn't pitch well?
It just seemed like the Twins were out of answers to figure out a way to get him on track, which is really unfortunate because, I think Simeon's always made incremental improvements in this game, and he even came to camp this year with another pitcher and was willing to, to expand his repertoire. And it seemed like he had figured out a way to be functional. I didn't want to use the word capable because Roy would go bananas. To be functional, because he knows he throws 93, maybe 94, which is barely average in Major League Baseball. It seemed like he knew he always had there had to be a more pitchability with him than maybe some other guys that throw harder. I thought he had figured out a way to embrace that role and to thrive in that role, but the wheels fell off pretty quickly here, and it went from like shaky to horrible, like quick with him. So I was really surprised that they DFA'd him, given what was going on with the rotation, and it immediately caused issues because they had two other guys go down, with Rojas and other starters going down, and it seemed like they could use his warm body at least, but he's going back to Toronto. Maybe they can figure out a way. I hope he ends up having a decent career because I thought he was, it wasn't like he was rocketing like this. He was kind of just doing like slowly but surely getting better. And, but it didn't work out in the end.
Yeah, I always felt like he was, he just didn't have the command that he needed to get by with the stuff that he had. And that had been my concern about him, or my observation and then concern about him all along, with 93, occasional 94 miles an hour, as you say, LaVelle. It's not enough. It's not enough fastball to get at some point in time in the 5 innings of trying to get to 6 innings that he was, trying to hit, where it just wasn't enough fastball. By the 3rd or 4th inning, he would walk somebody, get behind, walk somebody. He just couldn't hit. He couldn't hit the spots that he needed to hit when he really needed a big pitch, and it just seemed like that was always the case, where it just wasn't quite enough stuff to not have just great command of all the different pitches, which all the pitches looked like they were serviceable. And by the way, and I'll say capable. I'm okay with capable on the mound.
Okay,
I'm okay with that. I just don't want words like capable at defensive shortstop. That never works. Capable on the mound is, can work out. And it looked like he was going to be capable, and then it just never, ever quite happened with the command of his stuff.
Yeah, I felt like, he gave them some really valuable starts a couple of years ago. He kind of helped them through, a difficult spot with injuries and lack of pitching. And I feel like the more the league saw him, the less effective he was.
Yeah, it's really true. That's a really good observation. The hitters seem to understand his stuff after a while. They seem to understand that I'm going to make him throw it in the middle of the plate because sooner or later I'm going to get it there. I'm not going to be 0-2 all the time if I'm looking for a ball in the middle of the plate. I'm going to be 2-1, 2-0, 3-1 enough times where I can be really patient and selective. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. You see a lot of pitchers, and I think right away of Sonny Gray, for example. He'd get behind 3-1. It really needed a pitch to get him back in the count, and somehow he was able to throw something quality on a corner somewhere, for a strike. And it really separates good big league pitchers from kind of also rans, is that ability to make a big pitch for a strike when you really need it. And sometimes that pitch is just an overpowering fastball. So if you don't have that, an overpowering fastball, then you gotta make those pitches. I'll tell you another one that was that should have been better than he was Kyle Gibson. The same way. He could not make that big pitch on the corner. Good stuff. He'd throw it out there and it'd have some sink on it, but it would just miss. Or he had that nice breaking ball and he'd throw it back foot to left-handers, or he'd throw it down and away to right-handers, and it was really good. He struck out a lot of guys with that pitch, but when he really needed it, it just didn't quite make it. And you see a lot of guys with stuff that you think that should play in the big leagues. And ultimately, when it doesn't, it's usually what I've just been talking about.
Yeah, I'm looking at Simeon's strikeout rates too. They plummeted this year. Last year, he averaged 8.6 strikeouts per 9 innings, and this year it was hovering at 4.9 per 9 innings. So he was having issues trying to finish hitters off.
Yes. All right. One more minor leaguer I want to talk about, and then we're going to do our Booze and Blues segment. Thanks to all of our sponsors and everyone who listens.
True Vision Institute in Bloomington is the place to go for your vision correction needs. Go to truevision.com, set up a free consultation, go on into the folks at True Vision and just enjoy the hospitality and enjoy the education that you get in terms of the options that you have for vision correction. I had LASIK surgery at True Vision almost 2 years ago. It was an incredible experience. They bring you in. You're in and out of there very quickly, and within hours, you're seeing as clearly as I've ever seen. I have no need for the hassles of glasses and contacts anymore. And just life is smoother, life is easier since I went to True Vision. So go to truevision.com and set up your consultation and then go through the motions. And by the end of it, when you come out of there, you will be saying, I should have done this 10 years ago, just like I did. True Vision, truevision.com.
The days are longer, the calendar is filling up, and I want to feel as good as this beautiful summer weather. That's why I've been loving Groons. It's one daily pack of gummies that covers my greens, vitamins, and minerals, and even has 6 grams of prebiotic fiber, so I don't need to juggle a complicated wellness routine on top of everything else. They taste amazing. They're easy to toss in my bag on the go. Plus, they're vegan, gluten-free, and HSA FSA eligible for reimbursement. Save up to 52% off with promo code podcast at Groons.co. That's code podcast at GRUNS.co.
Sabato. He's not a young guy. There's no reason to keep him in AAA if he's succeeding down there and if they think he can perform in the big leagues. The fact that he's having a good year at AAA, they've needed a first baseman. Does that indicate they're really not seeing major league quality out of him at AAA?
I would say that does it matter right now? I mean, the lack of production they've had at first base has been a glaring issue for years. And, Sabato has come alive here a little bit. I think they should take advantage of it and see what they got, because if he could surprise someone and like figure out a way to stick in the majors, let's see if he can do it or not, and not just cut bait. I think he was available in the Rule 5 draft. No one took him last year. That probably was a motivating factor for him coming into this year. And you see now that, he's making more contact. He's hitting more homers. He looks like a guy who probably deserves a shot here. Given what you've got at first base, why wait? We're into June now. I've always said the season's broken up into thirds. You have the first 2 months to figure out what you got, and then the middle 2 months when you start making adjustments or roster moves or giving other players a chance. I think Aaron Sabato's put himself in a position where he deserves a chance. So I'm an advocate for him to see if he can get a chance to play.
Yeah, I can't add a whole. I don't know him well. I can't add a whole lot to that, other than I agree with the sentiment that what have you got to lose? I mean, if a guy's hot, the only thing standing in his way is how they figure out the roster moves. Who goes down and all that kind of stuff. I mean that's something that another thing I don't know a lot about. LaVelle, you know that better than I, and because I'm setting the bar pretty low on that, but.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say at this point, when you have a glaring need at a position and you have somebody that's hot, I mean, it doesn't matter if it's the rest of his career. I mean, how about for a month or a month and a half? See if you can catch some home runs somewhere out of your first baseman.
Yeah, he's 27. All right.
Yeah.
How much longer would you have to wait? He's got a 966 OPS. Give him a shot. Give him a month and see what happens and then move on. I don't see what the big issue is here.
Agreed. All right, good stuff, gentlemen. I appreciate it. Let's do our Booze and Blues segment. Anybody have an offering to start with?
I just want to reiterate, because I may have brought this up before, and I apologize if I'm repeating myself, but it's been like 10 to 12 years now, maybe longer than that, since the last time I saw Buddy Guy in concert, and it was at the Orpheum in downtown Minneapolis. And Buddy Guy's coming to the State Theater on October 8th. One of the greatest blues musicians in the history of blues. Actually, I saw him at the Orpheum. I also saw him. He opened for Rolling Stones when they played at what used to be called the Xcel Energy Center as well. Yeah. And he came out, I believe he came out and played Mustang Sally with them, and they had to keep up with him. He was just tearing it up that night. So absolutely a blues legend, Buddy Guy, State Theater, October 8th. I wholeheartedly endorse that place being packed that night from one of the legends of the of blues music here.
Amen.
Great personality. Great personality as well as a great guitarist. Just a wonderful guy. And this gives me another chance to reiterate my favorite video concert of all time, 25th anniversary, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. You get to see Buddy Guy playing with a bunch of people, including Jeff Beck. It's fantastic.
I actually saw him now. I remember because I was with Paul Allen. We were at the Fine Line. I think Buddy Guy was playing there. And I can't remember what song he was playing. And then one of the strings of his guitar broke, so he's playing, it breaks, and all of a sudden he just ad-libs in the middle of the song. Can't you see? I just broke my goddamn guitar string, but I'm going to keep playing. I'm going to keep playing.
Hey, when you're a blues artist, you know how to complain.
Yes.
Hey, there's a great Buddy Guy song out. He does "Ain't No Sunshine" with Tracy Chapman singing it. Oh, it's really good. I highly recommend. Now that we're talking about Buddy Guy, it's really fun. It's a great version. Bill Withers. You say, okay, I won't listen to that song by anybody else but Bill Withers until I heard this one, and this one's really fun. He does a nice little guitar riff. He's got his great vocal personality going in that, and Tracy Chapman does a really nice job in there too. So it's a fun song.
By the way, one of my favorite documentaries is The Black Godfather. You should check it out. You're talking about a man who ended up influencing so many people's careers, and he helped turn Bill Withers from a guy who was playing little coffee shops around LA into the hit maker, the great artist that we know today. So check out that as well. Good stuff, guys. I appreciate it. It's going to be an interesting summer one way or another. We'll talk to you next week, and thanks to everyone who listens.